Welcome to the One Body, One Life podcast. Hi, I am your host, Dr. Jason Wan, lifestyle physical therapist. What we do is we help high achievers eliminate pain, get stronger, and get back to a more active and robust lifestyle. And today I wanted to share a very simple model on how to continue to build muscle and make strength gains. And so this model here that I'm going to show you has helped me not just even 5x the weight on my pull-ups, but also 3x the weight on my dips. Yes, you heard that. When I first started using this exact model, which I'm going to define and title this in just a bit, I was able to go from a 25-pound pull-up and now doing 125-pound pull-ups at an 8-rep max. And I was also able to go from a 45-pound dip, and now I'm able to do 3 plates and more and still progressing using this model. This model has also been shown to high school kids. Yes, you've heard this. This model is simple enough for a high school child to actually know how to use. And a lot of the people that I've taught have also increased their strength like crazy, insurmountably. And also, I want to show you lastly, by the end of this podcast, is to ensure that you have a meaningful way of progressing and actually documenting this progress as well. So this model here is called the double progression model. And this is a model that I've taught to well over 1,000 clients, and it still works till today. So what you're essentially doing is you're using another way for the double progression model is called the 2+2 rule. And basically what you're going to do is for any given exercise, you're going to obviously assign yourself a certain amount of sets. You're going to assign yourself a repetition range. Very important that you set a range. And then therefore, with that range, every time that you hit that upper rep range, you want to increase weight. So let me give you an example. With a barbell squat, I'm going to give myself 3 sets of 6 to 8 repetitions. So this is a very narrow rep range, which means that I'm going to try to essentially on this training split, I'm going to try to increase weight faster. If you gave yourself an 8 to 15 rep range, then you're saying to yourself that I want to stay at a given weight longer. So with the 6 to 8 repetitions that I assign myself, if I do 3 sets of 6 at 100 pounds, the next time that I do that exact exercise, I'm going to try to aim for 2 more repetitions. So I'm going to try to aim for 3 sets of 8 repetitions. And let's say I do, and likely you should, because with obvious consistent strength training, you should be able to tolerate more volume and also tolerate more intensity over time, which in other words means that you should be able to tolerate more repetitions or tolerate more weight respectively. So if I'm doing now 3 sets of 8 at 100 pounds, the next time that I do that specific exercise, which is the barbell squat, I know that I hit the upper rep range last week or whenever I hit that. So now I'm going to go 3 sets of 6, which means I'm going back down to the lower rep range. And then therefore I'm going to increase weight. Usually for lower body, on average, people can progress anywhere between 5, 10, or sometimes for the more experienced, you can even increase 20 pounds as the double progression model. Usually I stray more to the 5-pound to 10-pound range. So if I'm at 100 pounds on the previous 2 exercises or the 2 previous workouts, I'm now going to do 3 sets of 6 at 110 pounds, for example. And then eventually 3 sets of 8 at 110 pounds. And then you go back down again, 3 sets of 6, then at 120 pounds. So this gives you a very predictable model on how to continue to increase weight. A common question I get from a lot of my clients is, if you continue down this route, can you just continue to increase weight and increase repetitions over and over again? And so the truth here is that no, everybody has a specific genetic limit. I think that a lot of people, you have to refine form and technique. I think that you have to also take into account how well you sleep, as well as your nutrition as well. So I think that a lot of those play into those factors on, can I just continue to increase weight infinitely? And so it depends on your genetics, depends on how fast you recover. And a lot of times, yes, as far as form and technique and proper training protocols will define how far that person can go. And there are a lot of people that are a certain weight, but they can possibly lift 4 to 5 times their body weight because, again, proper training, proper recovery. Okay. So For that matter, though, even at the age of 35, I'm continuing to increase my weights on specific compound lifts like squat, bench press, deadlift, lunges, and many other exercises. And for that matter, it's because of the consistency, is because of how well recovered I am from the point of sleep as well as nutrition. Okay. The next thing I want to tell you about is as far as this model, you want to apply, again, a repetition range, and you always want to increase your weights once you hit the upper rep range. There are a lot of protocols, but I find that this double progression model is by far the easiest and the simplest one to learn, so that you can continue to make gains for months and even years and possibly even decades down the line. Now, how do you actually make this progress? Is to actually track this. So when I was looking at, there was one time I looked at even like Bruce Lee's, believe it or not, if you look up Bruce Lee training, you can actually look up Google Images and actually see that he was actually writing on a piece of paper his exact repetitions, his exact amount of sets, and the exact amount of weight. And I was like, okay, if a legendary martial artist is also logging his weights and logging his reps, why shouldn't we? And so there are a lot more advanced technologies than what Bruce Lee had. Now we have apps. Now we have a lot of trackable data. We can use spreadsheets. So I actually, for myself, I use a mixture of spreadsheets. So I put my entire training split onto a spreadsheet. I label the columns as week 1 and week 2, week 3. So I'm progressing. And I also assign myself the name of the exercise, the sets, as well as a repetition range. So then I post-populate all of my data onto the spreadsheet. I also use an app, which is called FitNotes on Android. And I actually have been logging in this specific app for well over 10 years now. So when I show my clients this, they're very surprised. I've been logging actually all my data since 2014. So that's a lot of data that you can always look back at in order to continue to one-up yourself. And this data really shows, once you do like a barbell squat, it shows you what you've done even years ago, but even shows you what you just did last week. And so my favorite saying that I say to my clients is, what can't be measured can't be managed. And as a physical therapist, but also a strength training athlete, but also was a former math major, I was a math major in UC Davis, is the fact that if you don't measure, if you actually don't log your data, there are plenty of clients or plenty of people that I have tried to train, or let's say I know them, they have not made any gains for months and even years. They're still stuck on the same weight. They still look the same. They still perform the same. If anything, they're declining because they're getting older. So having the documentation really not just keeps yourself accountable, but again, you allow yourself to follow this specific double progression model that I just put out. So when you start logging, and I understand that some people are going to have that mental mindset of it's too much work to track, it takes up too much time. I know a lot, I've heard all the excuses down the line, but it's well worth it to spend 5-10 minutes to learn how to track, to force yourself to track, to try to make it a habit, so that maybe months down the line, you'll notice that your squat goes from 100 pounds and now you're at 175. And like I said, within 8 months, I went from a 25-pound pull-up and now I'm doing 125-pound pull-ups. And this is literally within 1 year of just brute consistent effort. Okay. So that's all I wanted to share with you guys today is the double progression model, but also finding either an app or even just using a spreadsheet, or if you're very old school, even just using a notepad. Write the name of the exercises, assign a set, assign a repetition range, and every time you hit the upper rep range, log that data, but then drop your reps back down, and therefore you increase the weight. Okay. And there are a lot of ways or a lot of protocols in order to increase intensity, but I think that weights and repetitions, as well as frequency, as well as sets, those are the easiest things to document. And I think I encourage you, after listening to this podcast, to really put pen to paper, virtually or physically, so that you can really see the gains and start to see that you're actually building muscle, you're getting stronger as you get older. And this is something I've been following for literally almost 10, 11 years now, even prior to becoming a physical therapist. And I still apply these principles today. So that's what I got for you guys today. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment or even drop a rating. Drop ratings. You can also drop ratings on YouTube Music, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. I greatly appreciate if you found this valuable, to continue to share my podcast or even share a 5-star rating. That'd be greatly appreciated. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to email me, jason@flexwithdoctorjay.com. You can also text me at 415-965-6580. A lot of ways to message me as well as my team. And that's it, what I got for this training. I'll leave you always with how I always leave things. We only got one body, one life. Make every action you take be one that makes you a better version of you. Take care.